Ethan was the kind of student most people barely noticed. He sat in the back of the class, head down, hoodie up, scribbling quietly in his notebook while others laughed, chatted, and showed off. His voice was rarely heard, and his presence was like a shadow, not because he was shy, but because life had taught him that silence was safer than attention. But what no one knew, not the teachers, not his classmates, and definitely not the bullies who would soon regret their choices, was that Ethan had a secret. Underneath that quiet exterior, he was trained. Years of discipline, sweat, and dedication in mixed martial arts had built him into someone far more capable than he appeared. The story began on a gray Monday morning, the kind of day where even the sun seemed tired. Ethan walked into school clutching his old backpack, the straps worn thin. His shoes had holes at the toes, his jeans were faded, and his shirt hung loose on his thin frame. To most people, he looked like an easy target, someone who wouldn't fight back. That's exactly what made the bullies choose him. The first incident. It started small. Jared, the self-appointed king of the hallways, stuck out his foot as Ethan passed by. Ethan stumbled but didn't fall, simply regaining his balance and moving on without a word. "Watch where you're going, loser," Jared sneered, his friends chuckling behind him. Ethan kept walking. He had no interest in petty confrontations. But in the bullies' minds, silence meant weakness. The next few days, it escalated. They would shove him in the hallway, knock books from his hands, trip him at lunch. Still, Ethan didn't retaliate. He didn't want trouble. He didn't want to hurt anyone because deep down, he knew exactly what he was capable of. At home, the truth. Ethan's home life was far from easy. His father had passed away when Ethan was 10, and his mother worked double shifts to make ends meet. The one constant his father had left him was MMA training. Martial arts isn't just about fighting, his dad had told him. It's about self-control, discipline, and knowing when not to fight. Ethan had taken those words to heart. Every evening, after finishing his homework, he would head to the small garage his father had turned into a training space. The punching bag was worn, the mats old, but it was his sanctuary. The physical training was tough, but the mental training was tougher. His coach, an old family friend named Miguel, would remind him. Control your power. The strongest person is the one who chooses not to use it. That's why, even when the bullies humiliated him in front of the whole cafeteria one Friday, dumping milk over his head, Ethan simply walked away. His heart burned with anger, but his mind told him to stay calm. The breaking point. However, bullies don't stop when you stay silent. They push further, testing limits. The turning point came when Jared and his crew cornered Ethan in the locker room after PE. They shoved him against the lockers, laughing as Jared grabbed his backpack and dumped its contents on the floor. Among the items was a small photo of Ethan's father, the only one he kept with him. Jared picked it up, looked at it, and smirked. "Who's this? Your daddy? Oh wait, isn't he dead?" Jared taunted, waving the picture like a trophy. Ethan froze. Every muscle in his body tensed. That photo was sacred. Jared pretended to crumple it. That's when something inside Ethan shifted. His father's voice echoed in his head, not telling him to walk away this time, but reminding him that self-defense was never wrong. Ethan's eyes locked on Jared's. "Put it down," he said, his voice low but steady. Jared laughed. "Or what, quiet boy? You gonna cry?" The next moment was a blur. Jared reached to shove him again, but Ethan moved. The fight they never saw coming. Ethan sidestepped the shove, catching Jared's wrist in one smooth motion. A twist, a pivot, and Jared was suddenly bent over, his arm locked in place. Before Jared's friends could react, Ethan let go, took a step back, and raised his hands in a calm MMA stance. They laughed at first. Then one lunged forward, big mistake. Ethan slipped to the side, used the attacker's momentum against him, and sent him stumbling into the lockers. Another came at him, swinging wildly. Ethan ducked, blocked, and landed a clean, controlled palm strike to the chest that sent the bully sprawling. He didn't hit harder than he needed to. He didn't injure them badly. He simply dismantled them with precision. Years of training showed in every move, fluid, disciplined, efficient. Within seconds, all three bullies were either on the floor or standing back in shock. Ethan picked up his father's photo, slipped it into his pocket, and said quietly, "I'm done staying quiet." Then he walked out, leaving them stunned. The aftermath. Word spread through the school like wildfire. The quiet kid had just dismantled the toughest guys in school without breaking a sweat. Some students were impressed, others intimidated, but most just saw him in a new light. The bullies didn't bother him again. In fact, Jared avoided eye contact whenever they crossed paths. But Ethan didn't become arrogant. He didn't brag. He didn't seek revenge. He simply kept living his life, studying, training, helping his mom. What changed was his confidence. He realized that standing up for yourself didn't mean losing your kindness. The lesson. Months later, Ethan was walking down the hallway when he saw another kid being cornered by a different group of bullies. This time, Ethan didn't hesitate. He stepped in, calmly but firmly telling them to back off. His presence alone was enough to make them walk away. The younger kid looked up at him with wide eyes. "Why'd you help me?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Because I know what it feels like." That day, Ethan understood something deeper, that his skills weren't just for protecting himself. They were for protecting others, too.